Welcome, Nick. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Gareth. Yeah, good. I'm nice and refreshed after a good couple of nights' sleep because I was in Vegas last week, as you know, for UFC 290, which was a heck of an event.
It was indeed. We'll have a little look at that as we pick over what is happening in the heavyweight division. Obviously, it was a pivotal week for the heavyweight division. Anthony Joshua signs a fight one day. Over in Poland, there's a press conference just before that with Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois. And then the day after, yesterday, absolute chaos when we kind of knew this really, that the Ngannou fight was in the making, but not many people, they kept very tight-lipped about it, that it was happening in Saudi. The game changer that Frank Warren had teased on talkSPORT a couple of weeks ago, I was there when he talked about it with White and Jordan, or White and Sawyer, Jordan and Sawyer on the day, of course, and Natalie was hosting for Jim. That the big game changer really is that they've signed with Saudi Arabia, but a different government organisation, Riyadh Season they're called, than Prince Khalid and Skills Challenge, which, I don't know, throws up a very, very interesting and different situation. I don't know yet, if I'm honest, what the relationship is between those different Saudi groups. I mean, obviously everything, it's a kingdom and everything emanates from government there. But I just wonder whether this moves us closer to this Game of Thrones that's happening. Is it all Machiavellian behind the scenes? Are they all plotting and planning towards this anyway? Are we going to see Fury and Usyk, if they both win, in Saudi Arabia next year? Has this been the master plan all along, maybe?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I've been saying it since the start of the year. I even said it on this show a few weeks ago. Gareth, you've even been saying that, you know, a couple of these fights that you'd seen them coming over the hill. Let's break them down one by one. AJ versus Dillian Whyte was all but done at the end of last year. We knew it was the only fight that AJ wanted this summer to build towards something big at the end of the year. We knew Dillian Whyte had signed back with Matchroom on DAZN to get the fight with AJ. So no surprise whatsoever that that fight is happening. Alexander Usyk defending against Daniel Dubois, who's his leading contender for one of his belts. That's a mandatory fight. We kind of knew that fight was going to happen because Alexander Usyk, in this entire conversation, is an actual fighting man. He is the guy that will fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. His entire career has proven that. And he wants to keep the belts because he wants the legacy of being the undisputed champion to stay alive. And the only way he does that is by keeping hold of these belts by hook or by crook. If Daniel Dubois is the guy, then he will face Daniel Dubois. I don't think he necessarily wants to, but he wants to keep the belt. So that doesn't surprise me either. And then finally, of course, we're going to Saudi Arabia for the big top. Big Frank Warren's putting a big top up in Saudi. He's going to put a nice big top hat on. He's going to shake around a nice big stick. The circus is in town. But you know what? This is sports entertainment, Gareth. At the end of the day, they did it with Mayweather-Pacquiao. It's absolutely no surprise that Tyson Fury, who's all about the money, who's all about making the biggest noise possible, is going the direction of Francis Ngannou. Because Francis Ngannou is kind of the path of least resistance, but the path with the most headlines attached to it.
Yeah, I think you meant Mayweather and McGregor there, not Pacquiao, which was 2 years earlier.
McGregor, sorry,
you meant McGregor. No, we were all there. No, it's
not
easy to make the mistake, but a very similar kind of circus in the sense that it generated 500 or 600 million US dollars, 500 million US dollars back in 2017 now, wasn't it? That's like 6 years ago. The landscapes changed so much. You know, I remember the boxing purists then not being happy about it. You know, that Mayweather was having his 50th fight against Conor McGregor, but they were two masterful self-promotion guys themselves. So it really worked. It was an extraordinary event, bringing together Top Rank, bringing together with the UFC. Seeing Dana White sitting next to Bob Arum was very unusual. There were double press conferences. It was a fascinating event. You know, I think this is interesting. I'm delighted for Ngannou, by the way, because I think he was always underpaid in the UFC. So he may earn 20 times what his official fee is.
Sorry, Gareth. What are you led to believe is going to be Ngannou's fee here? Because the UFC had offered him $8 million a fight on a 3-fight deal, so $24 million to stay with them, and he walked away from that to obviously take this opportunity. And let's be honest, he takes this opportunity. There is no fight after this, not in boxing anyway, because I think Tyson Fury does what Mayweather did to Conor McGregor. I think it's a mismatch, of course. So what are you led to believe the money on the table for Francis Ngannou? Any indication yet?
I don't think it'll be less than 10 million.
I wouldn't have thought so.
No, but his official purse for his last fight was 500,000 or 600,000.
Yeah, but I know, but me and you both know that's not what he earned. You know, come on.
Well, I don't know what he earned.
We know what how the UFC works. That's
well,
not.
He wasn't happy with his UFC deal, was he?
Of course,
so he left. He wasn't
exactly
happy with it for one reason or another.
I think he realised that in the UFC, he had attained the title finally after years of campaigning as baddest man on the planet, because that title does belong to the UFC champion these days. I think it's a multifaceted martial art. I think everybody appreciates that. He'd finally got that title after years of trying. He'd made a single defense of that belt, and he thought, you know what, this is the best opportunity. He'd always dreamed about boxing when he was fleeing Cameroon and the sand mines and everything else. He never dreamt of being UFC champion. He dreamt of being the world heavyweight champion in boxing. And it was only over the course of time where, when he finally got to Paris, he found an MMA gym and they said, this is the sport for you. So I get the way he's coming back to realize his dreams. He's a wealthy man anyway. This is fantastic for him. I completely agree. The problem we've got is that comparing it to Mayweather and McGregor, it's not even in the same stratosphere of that fight, because Mayweather was a multi-million pay-per-view time and again star. Likewise, Conor McGregor, the biggest star we've ever seen in the sport of MMA. Millions and millions of pay-per-view buys with every fight. Mayweather had cleaned out boxing. He'd fought everybody. He'd fought generations of superstars to become the superstar that he was. Likewise, Conor McGregor had cleaned out 2 weight divisions, and he'd beaten a bit of a who's who of everybody. And the timing of that fight was perfect. It was like lightning in a bottle to make an absolutely incredible amount of money, to rinse the US pay-per-view market, which is why it took place in Las Vegas, and they had the world tour. This is different. This is a one-off payments from the Saudis to put this fight on. They've already banned it. Baddest man on the planet. Who's the main guy? But Francis Ngannou, his biggest pay-per-view was the 350,000 buys. Tyson Fury sells incredibly well here in the UK, does well in the US because of the Wilder fights, but they're in a very different place where Mayweather and McGregor was. So that's why this one's interesting, because Tyson has got lots of options. You know, I get why Francis is doing it. He wants to make as much money as possible. He wants to cross over. He wants to roll the dice and try and realize a dream. But with Tyson, I'm a bit like, come on, man. You know, you've just done Chisora and Dillian White. This is the best you can do. The heavyweight champion of the world. I don't know how you feel.
We're going to get into that later on in the show. We're going to do a whole section on it. But how do I feel about it? Of course, I'd rather him defending his WBC title to number 4 Frank Sanchez or number 5 Arslanbek Makhmudov. The 2 fights I really want to see him in are against Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. Usyk at the top of that pile. Of course, I want to see those fights. Only time is going to tell on this, how we end up talking about Tyson Fury's career in a couple of years' time. You know, he's not flavor of the month at the moment. I think they are looking to do the Usyk fight next year. I think Frank Warren's argument that we'll hear later is, look, Tyson Fury's become such a big name, we're able to do this. But, I mean, I think they could have done this in Saudi Arabia, Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou as well. That would have worked.
Yeah.
We are in a time when there is enormous amounts of money sloshing around. It's not Las Vegas anymore. I do agree, it was very different when Mayweather and McGregor fought. They both had become stratospheric in their careers. Mayweather over many years, and Conor McGregor was on that huge rise at the time, you know, at the summit of his career, really. I think the fight with Mayweather was the summit of his career. I don't think Conor McGregor's been the same since. But it's very easy to criticize. The WBC belt cannot be on the line for this fight, obviously.
But there will be I think we both know there will be a version of a WBC.
Yeah, I'm sure the
belt.
WBC will create a belt. I think they did with Mayweather and McGregor, didn't they?
They did.
Created
Of course
a belt.
they did.
Yeah,
of course they did.
And also the rules around the WBC mean that Fury doesn't need to do a mandatory until December, which maybe needs looking into as well. Yeah. So they're not doing anything lawless here, but it's just the whole division has been stretched for a long time. We've talked about this for months and months, you and I, all of us. And the situation is ego, money, and timing. Those are the three things. And it's all based around the huge pots available in Saudi Arabia. And that's what's happened here. That's the game changer here. Fury against Ngannou would not have worked in the UK or America, but it works in Saudi because they are getting an enormous purse and an enormous site fee. That's the only reason it's happening right now, in my view. It's not what we want. It's not what we 100% want, but we'll all watch it. Fury has to do a number on Ngannou, who's never had a professional boxing match in his life. We don't know how many rounds it is. I imagine it's 10 rounds, and it's 3 judges, and it's 10-point must system, apparently. So, like you say, it is a big circus. It's a big circus tent in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. It's a sideshow to the heavyweight division. The real clash of the titans will come next year, hopefully, when Usyk and Fury step into a ring together for the undisputed title, which almost certainly looks like it's going to be in the Middle East.